My name is Dedan Ngatia, and I'm a Kenyan student at Karatina University. But right now I'm working as a project manager for the Kenya Rangelands Wild Dogs and Cheetah project. And what we do for this project is track wild dogs and track cheetahs as well. And then we follow them to figure out where they go, how they move, and how they use space. And then we use this information to guide different people for management purposes. So this project was started back around 2001 by Professor Rosie Woodruff, who is the principal investigator for this project. And she started working on wild dogs from 2001. And then back in 2014, we had a PhD student come in, and that's where we added the cheetah. So initially it was Kenya Rangelands Wild Dogs project, but it turned out to be Kenya Rangelands Wild Dogs and Cheetahs after we got the PhD students back in 2014. So the project has been located at Impala, also following dogs in Samburu, but mostly in Laikipia. So right now we are following lots of packs in Laikipia and also a few cheetahs in Laikipia as well. My favorite wildlife wild dog fact is a fact that comes from their name, and they are called the African hunting dogs, basically because they are said to be the best hunters. And the fact is that wild dogs are known to be the best hunters in the world. And how this works out is because they are well coordinated, they work in groups, they are very well socially organized, they strengthen numbers when you're doing hunting, and then they apply some very good strategies for their hunt. And so that's the best fact I have for the wild dogs, because they are good hunters. Once they locate a prey, high chances are that they'll get the prey. The packs can be as big as 42 individuals, though also 3 individuals has been located to be in the same pack. And right now I'm following a pack of 2 guys, but that will most probably be a temporary pack, because maybe they just dispersed from some other location, and what's happening right now, maybe they're just looking for other packs to join. So realistically, the existing packs of 3 to 42 packs. And also they den, and by denning we mean that they're having young ones, and mostly they'll be denning for 4 months, and then they normally have an average of 10 pups. It's been recorded 19 pups, but mostly it will be an average of 10 pups. So for the social organization, as we said, they have a very strong social bond, and they are very well socially organized. And what happens with this is that we have an alpha male and then we have an alpha female, and these are the only 2 guys who have mating rights, or rather, these are the only 2 guys who mate in a pack. And then the other guys, I'll call them joy riders, because they don't have mating rights. And what happens now is, because if other males and females really want to mate, they always disperse from the pack. They go out and start looking for new packs, and then by looking for new packs, they want to become the alpha male, they want to become the alpha female, and by that they'll have chances of mating. And we say that there's a natural way of controlling. Inbreeding, because naturally it's only males who will disperse together, or female will disperse together. So low chances are that you'll find a male and a female dispersing at the same time. It's always 2 males dispersing same time, 2 females dispersing same time, a male dispersing by itself, a female dispersing itself, but you'll never find all those guys dispersing together. So that basically they are how their family is structured. All the females will most probably be be related in a family, but the males are not necessarily related. So as it's known, the habitat of African wild dogs, they tend to prefer grasslands with less trees, and that's savannas. Though we have a park, we've found parks in forest, but as you say, in Kenya we have lots of parks in Laikipia. We have also like a park coming out in around Masai Mara National Reserve, and So what I think the main reason to this is because we have abundance of prey in savannas. We have lots of herbivores, we have lots of impalas, we have lots of bugs, bush bugs, all those things. And so with that abundance, this tends to be the best place for wild dogs to come get food, hunt, and all those things. And so the best place, I would say, the habitat is more open, grassland with several trees, but not very open, because they also need places to hide. They also need dens. They also need places to den with their kids and pups. And for that, it's got to be a closed place. But for hunting, they need an open place. For their dens, they're always worried, and they fear, and they are worried about their pups, and so they always try to hide them as far as they can. And mostly I think they will be hiding their pups from predators. They're hiding their pups from lions, from hyenas, and mostly, like we have the experience in Laikipia, they always put their pups high above on the highest hills we have. There's a hill called Mukenya, and you'll find their pups at the top of the hill. They always find very close regions, like top of ridges. They always want to have their pups in places which are close to inaccessible. And the main reason for this is they're taking care of their pups, and because there's a big problem, they don't want people around their pups. They don't want any predators around their pup, and so they're around their pups, and so they're always hiding them, and they're always trying to protect them, and they will put them in very closed and very inaccessible regions. So people have been asking questions on whether wild dogs can be domesticated, and it's not in even most of my friends are always curious whether we can domesticate them. And my answer to this is that we cannot domesticate wild dogs. And the main reason to this is because these dogs are adapted to survive in the wild. They are adapted to hunt. Their way of living is waking up early in the morning, going hunting, and then spending the day sleeping, and then going hunting later in the afternoon. We can domesticate them when they are pups, but this is very inadvisable because they need to hunt. They are social animals. When you domesticate wild dogs, you deprive their social structure of them, and so they can be domesticated, yes, but there's no reason we should do that, because they need their natural setting. They need to hunt together. They need their social setting as well. And so I would say they cannot be domesticated. And I don't have any information of anybody who've tried to domesticate wild dogs. So I don't know if it's good to say they fear. They are afraid of human beings, but the best word to use is that they're shy of human beings. So if you're driving next to them, even if you're in the car and they spot you, they'll never be bothered by you. But immediately you step out of the car, they always tend to run away from you. So they're not afraid of human beings, but they know, but they're shy. So they don't want you to go close to them. And also we advise people to never ever step out of their cars, but you have the experience of going as close as 5 meters, as close as 2-3 meters to the dogs while you are in the car. But immediately you step off the car, no matter how far you are from them, immediately they will spot you. They always tend to run away. And the main reason we advise people not to come close to dogs is because we have the experience of human beings being one of the main threats to, not in a bad way, but human beings have been threatening dogs, because we have lots of them which has been speared, killed next to the community neighborhoods. And so we don't want the wild dogs to get used to people. We don't want the wild dogs to get used to getting very close to people. And the only way to stop this is because people want to see dogs every time. They are rare species to see, and so when the dogs are somewhere around, everybody wants to come and see them. So we advise people to just stay in your cars, just stay away from the dogs, get as close as you can when in the car, but don't try to step out. So the social organization of the dogs is very interesting. It's not complicated, but it's very interesting to watch. And they have so many ways of communicating. They have a very defined way of making decisions. They have a very way of, there's a very informed decision making pattern. And they communicate in different ways for different purposes. They produce different sounds for different reasons. When they want to go out hunting, there was what we call the meeting ceremony, and this mostly will happen in the late evenings, where the pups, mostly the young pups, will come making some interesting sounds. They're trying to wake up the males, adult males. They're trying to wake up the adult females, and they're trying to wake them up so that they can get ready for hunting. And then they have this way of how they decide how to go for the hunt. If one guy decides we want to go this direction and the other guys are not interested in that direction, nobody will follow him or her. But if they decide that the best way to go hunting, then they all make that unanimous decision. So they communicate in different ways. They communicate also when they are distressed, when they've lost one of the youngs. When one guy finds food, he wants to call the others to come. There's a way of calling them, and the others will know he has gotten food, and they'll just come following him or her. So I don't know how to explain the sounds, but they make different sounds, and they make these different sounds for different reasons. So now a little bit about cheetahs. And we've been working on cheetahs, but we've not been working on cheetahs for long. And the project has been following cheetahs for approximately 3 years now. And what I would say the best thing I love about cheetahs is what everybody knows. We say cheetahs are very fast. We say they are the fastest animals in the world. I don't know how true that is. Maybe they are the second fastest to deer. But these guys can run as fast as 75 kilometers per hour, which is very fast. And so even though wild dogs are not that fast, wild dogs happens to be better hunters than them. But by the fact that cheetahs can run this fast also makes them better hunters. And so that's a fact that I really love, and that's why I love looking at the cheetahs every time. Cheetahs are vulnerable to both humans and also to environmental impacts. And the main explanation to this, and the biggest challenge to cheetahs, because most of the cheetahs will be solitary, although they come in, mostly they will come into groups when maybe two males come up together, or maybe when a mother and her daughters are together before they disperse. But because they are solitary, they need large space for hunting, they need large space for use and all those things. And the biggest challenge has been land fragmentation. That is what has been causing decline in the cheetahs population. And now when you go back to this, the main reason and the main cause for land fragmentation has been rising human population. And so humans happen to be a threat to cheetahs by the fact that they take land, they cause land to be divided into different portions. So make it easily if cheetahs need to, if they need to breed. And then we had like 10 cheetahs in a given area. And then the area was subdivided, was fragmented into different sections, like 10 different sections. And every section has a cheetah. It will be pretty much impossible for one cheetah to cross from this section to the next section, making it so hard for breeding. So, there are lots of pressures that comes with land fragmentation. One being the fact that when land is fragmented, there's less food available for a given individual. There are less chances of attracting males and females for sex and all those things. And also for environmental factors, considering the effects of climate change, this has led to severe weather, high temperatures that are not good for cheetah survival. Also has led to a decline in the population of herbivores, decline in the population of impalas and all those small herbivores that cheetahs depend on. And so those are some of the biggest risks that are causing and are making cheetahs to be vulnerable at the moment. I've already mentioned about those environmental factors and human factors, but also cheetahs and wild dogs, and mostly these concerning wild dogs, have been hugely affected by diseases. And one of the most apparent disease that has been killing wild dogs and affecting wild dogs hugely is rabies. And rabies has been a biggest threat to wild dogs. And I don't know how far it's been a threat to cheetahs, but the main reason why rabies is a big problem, and mostly in regions like Laikipia where we are working right now, is because we have huge coexistence between people wildlife and livestock. And considering that rabies can affect all warm-blooded animals, by the fact that a dog has rabies, it can easily spread the rabies to a wild dog, and also the wild dogs can easily spread the rabies to other carnivores. So we have lots of diseases, health problems. We have rabies, we have canine distemper virus, we have parvovirus. All these viruses are hugely associated with canines, with carnivores, and so I expect them to hugely affect wild dogs, to hugely affect cheetahs as well. But rabies has been so apparent, and we've been following some packs to find out if they've been affected by rabies. So what we're doing about this is we follow the dogs closely, and we follow them, one, to find out that they're healthy every time, and that's why we have collars on them, so that it's easy to access them, it's easy to find out where they are, and then we can check on their health conditions every time, like once per week. And then immediately we do that, if we have any alarming thing we see, we just report it, and then we work closely with the Kenya Wildlife Service vets, and then we can call them anytime. We can come and sort out whatever problems might be there. And the other problem the other thing we've been doing in partnership with Impala Research Center is conducting rabies vaccination campaigns for all domestic dogs around this place. And how we do this is by just going around vaccinating dogs, and so far we've vaccinated close to 5,000 dogs. And we vaccinate dogs because dogs are the main reservoirs for rabies, and rabies is one of the biggest challenges in Laikipia we have right now, because of the coexistence and because of how easy it is to spread the virus between different categories and between different groups. And so by vaccinating dogs, and it's been recorded, if you vaccinate dogs for 3 consecutive years, there is a higher chance of eradicating rabies, and that's what we're hoping to do. But even after we eradicate rabies in dogs, the next thing we are doing is doing pre and post-vaccination studies to find out on what happens to the mechanism of rabies. Does that mean because we have eliminated rabies from domestic dogs, we have the rabies, the reservoir mechanism changes to another wild carnivore, maybe changes to a wild dog, changes to small carnivores and all those things. So that's something we are doing, but that's also a step we are doing towards working on stopping disease transmission on wild carnivores. So fieldwork is always a little bit challenging, and the biggest challenge we have with this work is the fact that wild dogs move long distances, and so you might leave them in a specific point today, and then the following morning they will be kilometers away. So that is a little bit challenging, but it's a little bit challenging, but not very much challenging. And so what we do about this is we always try to track them every day. We always try to keep track of the dogs every day, such that even if they move 20 kilometers, I'll be able to follow them wherever they move. So other challenges we have, we need lots of hands. It's expensive to follow dogs. It's expensive to follow cheetahs. The GPS collars, VHF collars are very expensive. So this is not like a challenge, but it's a need. So there's need for more funds. There's need for more resources to be put towards the Wild Dog project, because unless other projects or the equipments you need to follow the dogs, or equipments you need to put on collars and to get the movement data are so expensive, and so there are so more resources needed towards this. What I like most about my work and what makes me feel happy every time is when I miss dogs for several days, when I go chasing after dogs for a day, chase after the same dogs for the second day, third day, fourth day, you don't find them, and then you happen to find them on the last day. That's always so fulfilling, and you feel like you've just gotten what you really wanted, because you can go for weeks and you can go for quite long time without finding these dogs. And what we do, we work closely with ranchers, we work closely with landowners, and so if they have any spotting of dogs, we can easily get the information, we can easily get the sightings, the photos, and then we can try do the identifications and find out where the dogs are. So by the fact that you're missing all these dogs, when you find them, it's always a fulfilling thing, and you feel excited excited about that. So major findings for the Kenya Rangelands Wild Dog and Cheetah project. When the project was established, the main goal and the main mission of this project was to enhance coexistence between people and wild dogs. And as I said, cheetahs were introduced back in 2014, just a few years ago. So the main goal back in 2001 was to enhance this coexistence. And the main reason is because there used to be lots of conflict between people and dogs. People used to hate dogs because dogs used to feed on their sheep, used to feed on their goat, and so they used to negatively view wild dogs. And so the project came in as a way of following these dogs, and then we can use whatever information we have to inform people, to inform landowners, to inform even the community members on where the dogs are. And so with this, we can easily follow the dogs. We can easily know where the dogs are. If the dogs are close to your place, just take good care of your cattle and all those things. And then for the same reason, the project has been hiring guides in the community lands for quite some time. And these guides keep close in touch with the dogs. They know where the dogs are every time. They have tracking materials, devices, and then every time they know where the dogs are, they will inform everybody. And by that, we know where the dogs are, and it's so easy to reduce. To minimize conflict between people and wild dogs. And one of the other findings is that the population of wild dogs has been rising, and since the project started, because just a little bit of a back history on the dogs. So the dogs were in Laikipia back in 1980s, and then they disappeared in Laikipia around the same time in 1980s, and then early 2000 they recolonized Laikipia back, and that's when the project was started. The first GPS collar was put on this dog, and then from then population of dogs has been rising, and right now we are following over 10 packs of dogs, which just shows how the population has been moving up. And considering the rising population in Laikipia, rising the population of people, rising population of everything, and considering also that the population of wild dog is rising, we count that as one of the biggest outcome of this project, and this is what the project was really meant to do. So for that purpose, because the main trouble wild dogs had is people, the project also had some community outreach, and the main reason for this was to talk to people, educate people, talk to them about dogs, try and change their perception about dog, trying to change and show them what they should do whenever they have dogs around them, because we used to have this problem when dogs will approach some sheep or goats, and then when you try and fight the dogs, there are higher chances that the dogs will kill a large number of your sheep and goats, because they will bite on one sheep, and then when you chase them, they go and bite another one. But if they bite one sheep and you just let them go, you just flee the other, you just let the other sheep and goats go, there are higher chances that the other sheep and goats. So those are some of the things the project has been doing, hiring people from the communities, just to show them that wild dogs are important, cheetahs are important as well, talking to them to try and reduce the conflict, to try and see if this can help boost the wild dog population. And for sure this has been happening, and the population of dogs has been rising with time. So the altitude of people has changed. Right now we get a lot of sightings from the local communities. They will call us whenever they spot the dogs. They always let us know where the dogs are. We collaborate with them, and then when we know where the dogs are, we always inform them, because we're always following the dogs closely. And so by this fact, even if the dogs are still there, the dogs are still living with people, but there's less conflict. And you can easily see the perception and the attitudes of the people has really changed, because they used to hate dogs. They used to view dogs as predators for their sheep and goats. But right now, they appreciate that dogs are important. They know that dogs are endangered. They know that dogs are an important part of the system, and we need them. We need them for so many reasons. And so, as we conserve dogs, they also help us do the same by reporting where the dogs are, and also we help boost that by employing some of the community members, so that we can both work together towards protecting these endangered species. So we've had a lot of incidences of children bitten by dogs, but mostly this has been happening by children being bitten by domestic dogs, not wild dogs. And we've not had any case of a wild dog biting a kid, but we've had lots of and thousands of cases of, a lot of cases, not thousands, but a lot of cases of dog bites happening to domestic dog bites happening to kids. And what we do for this, we've been also conducting an education program for the same, and we talk to kids, we tell them how they should treat their dogs, how they should work with their domestic dogs, and immediately what you do after a bite is just wash the wound, and then the next thing you should do, less than 72 hours, just make sure you visit a dispensary, and then you get the pre-exposure prophylaxis and post-exposure prophylaxis, and then with that, when you get the number of shots that you'll be advised by the medical officer, then you have better chances of not suffering from the disease. So, one of the main objectives, also hypothesis we have, is that there is some interaction between wild dogs and domestic dogs, and that's why we expect that there is huge transmission of rabies virus between the two categories of dogs. And though there's not much we've done to this apart from doing the vaccinations, we'll be doing close follow-ups to just ensure that even if the domestic dogs are safe from rabies, we also want to ensure that the wild dogs also are well protected from the same virus. So no case so far of a wild dog biting anybody. And the main reason to this is we always advise people to keep away from dogs, because we don't want dogs to get used to people. We want dogs to still be shy to people, and that will still, because that will help them maintain their natural thing in them. So one of the main things we're doing right now, and what we've been doing, and I think we've been successful with that, is enabling coexistence. By creating an enabling environment for both dogs and people. But we understand that also, apart from habitat fragmentation, apart from a rise in human population, we also have other problems with climate change. And what we are doing right now, and we already have, the PI has prepared a grant in place, and the grant right now, a proposal and it's meant to try and understand, apart from human-caused problems, apart from all those other problems, what happens with the impact of climate change on dogs? Does that mean with increased temperatures, we know dogs don't like high temperatures, that's why they'll go hunting early in the morning, then take a break during the day because the temperatures are high, and then go out hunting late in the evening because they don't want to do it in in high temperatures, because they need to run at fast speed and long distances. So with the effect of climate change, with less vegetation cover expected, with a decline in population of other herbivores expected, what happens to wild dogs? So we are incorporating measures, and we are incorporating side effects of climate change, and that's what we are expecting to be doing in the next couple of years if we get some funding to do that. So the Kenya Rangelands Wild Dogs and Cheetahs project started back in 2001, but just a back history of that is that back in the 1980s, we used to have dogs in Laikipia, but the dogs disappeared in Laikipia a few years after that. And then around early 2000, the dogs recolonized Laikipia back. And that's when we had the first pack coming into Laikipia. And so that's when the principal investigator of this project, Professor Rosie Woodruff, came up with the idea of following the dogs. And she put the first GPS on collars on these dogs in 2001. And the main reason she did that is because she wanted to find out how the dogs move. She wanted to find out where they go to, how they use space. And then this was because there used to be lots of conflict between people and dogs, because they always visit the community lands, they always feed on sheep and goats, and then sheep and goats, and people would have a very negative perception of the dogs. So she came in with an idea of tracking these dogs, putting collars on them, and then using whatever information we get, we can inform ranchers, we can inform different people on where the dogs are, how they are moving, and whatever they are doing. And then with that information, with where the dogs are known, then people can be a little bit careful when the dogs are close to your place. And this has hugely led to a reduction in the rate of conflict between wild dogs and people. And by then the project used to work only on wild dogs, but we also started working on cheetahs back in 2014, and this because we had a PhD student coming in to study cheetahs, but same thing, to study their movement ecology, to study how they use space, and then this information would be used to inform ranchers, to inform everybody else, such that at every time we know where all the dogs are, and then we can use that information to help reduce the conflict that was formerly existing in this place. So since 2001, this project has followed, I think, over 40 packs of dogs. I mean, over 20 packs of dogs, and they've put collars. We've put over 100 collars on dogs, and right now we are following. I'm following approximately close to 10 packs, though some of them don't have collars on them. And right now at Impala Research Center, which is in Laikipia, we have 3 packs already existing. We have the pack called Crocodile Pack. It has 15 dogs right now, and we have another pack called Toucan Pack. It used to have 9 dogs, but it's split into 2. We have a pack of 6, another pack of 7 also in Laikipia, and I mean at Impala. And so we have other parks outside Impala. We have another park called Macho Park at Loldiga Hills Conservancy. We have the Katu Park at Oljogi Conservancy, and we have another Borana Park at Borana, and also we have a pack of 2 dogs outside a little bit towards Meru. And so we are following, I guess right now we have approximately 6 collared packs, and we also have a few other collars that we need to put, a few other packs that we also need to collar a few individuals in the packs as well. So the collaring process is a little bit interesting, but also a little bit hard and complicated. And the main reason for this is because we, as the project participants, we are not allowed to put collars on dogs. So putting collars on endangered species is a role by the Kenya Wildlife Service. And so what we do, we try and track the dogs, we trace the dogs, we follow them every time, we find out where the dogs are, and then we invite, or rather we call a Kenya Wildlife Service vet who comes in, and then what he does, we dart the dogs, and then we dart them for approximately 1 to 2 hours. We put the collars on, and then we sample the dogs for other things. We take normal measurements, length, and then we sample them for ticks. We sample them for fleas, and then we take blood samples so that we can screen them for pathogens in the lab. And then later on we have the dog sleep, and then the dogs joins the other pack. So people would always think that once you've darted the dog, the other pack members will run away from the pack. But what they do is that they'll just move a little bit away from where we are and just sleep a distance away. And even if they tend to move long away from where the darted dog is, they always come back looking for this individual. And so even if you dart a dog, even if it sleeps for 1 or 2 hours, the dog will still be reunited with its former pack within a short period of time. It never takes 1 day before they get back together, and mostly it takes a very short time before they join back together. So here in Laikipia, and for the time I've been working in this project, I've not at any time spotted any interaction between domestic dogs and wild dogs. Maybe there have been interactions not recorded, but during my stay here, I've not at any time seen any interaction between these two. But maybe but it also depends on what we define interaction as, because we can either talk about interactions in terms of direct contact, we can also talk about non-direct contact. And so these dogs will always visit community lands, and community lands have lots of dogs, and the number of dogs in Laikipia has been rising. And by dogs I mean the number of domestic dogs in Laikipia has been rising. And the main reason the domestic dogs number has been rising is because domestic dogs are closely associated with human beings. And so when the number of human beings is rising, we also expect the number of dogs to rise, because if I used to have 10 cows and then I raise the number of cows to 20, I'll definitely raise the number of dogs I need to take care of my cows. And so that's how the number of domestic dogs are rising. And then because by the fact that domestic dogs, wild dogs, will visit community lands every time, and also we have information about domestic dogs coming into conservancies. That means they are some chances of contact. It might not necessarily be direct contact, but there are chances of contact between domestic dogs and wild dogs, but we've not recorded any interaction so far. So physically, the differences between wild dogs and domestic dogs are pretty obvious. One African hunting dogs, some people call them painted dogs because of how they are. They are painted black, brown, and with some white patches. Most of them will have a white tail, and so looking at them, they look like domestic dogs, but they are very different from domestic dogs by the fact that the colors are different. Maybe morphologically they look the same, but the coloring patterns and also their adaptations and everything else, their behavior. Wild dogs are very social compared to domestic dogs and all those things, but physically the color patterns are so different. So African hunting dogs are carnivores, and so they rely 100% on meat for food, and the kind of prey they go for depends on the numbers of wild dogs we have. So if we have 10 wild dogs, and if the number of individuals in the pack is big, like over 20 dogs, they always tend to go for a large prey. They will go for big herbivores. And if the number of individuals in the pack is small, like 3, 4, 5 dogs, they always tend to go for the small herbivores. But mostly, generally, the wild dogs are fond of impalas as their prey, though some people, and it's been recorded that they also hunt dik-diks, but mostly if they happen to catch a dik-dik, only 2 members in the pack will get a chance to share the meat. But so for the purposes of feeding every individual in the pack, they will go for a prey with a size that will sustain the whole pack. Maybe if they're a pack of 6 dogs, 8 dogs, they'll go for an impala, they'll go for other gazelles of the same size. Mostly they've been recorded to hunt mostly gazelles, but some other cases has been shown where they've brought down buffaloes and also some other big-sized prey.